Hello there, friends. Andrea with the Bangs here. And on today's episode of She Wonders Why, I speak with Fanny Anzai. She is a fellow female YouTuber in a very similar space that I am in. She does interviews, long form interviews, and she's extremely curious and just wants to hear other people's perspectives and opinions, and that is something that I can definitely relate to. And we're both mothers, although Fanny is also, in addition to being a mother, she is also a doctor. This was a very interesting interview because I was able to explore post-US election. We did this last week, so just after the election had happened, and I was able to pick her brain about where she was at. She's also in Canada. She immigrated from Brazil. And so she's kind of on the outside looking in as well at such things, American politics and whatnot. And it's interesting because the way that she makes sense of the election and the partisanship and all such things that add to polarization is the concept of we need to understand that there is an objective reality and we have perceptions of it. And so this actually allowed me to go down the road of understanding why that is an answer to this question of how do we, get along in a place where people see things so differently. And I was able to ask her about her story, about how she moved from a Catholic background into an atheist space. I really was interested to hear this journey of hers, just to sort of see how people come to their conclusions and why they think the way they think. And I hope that you guys enjoy it. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And if you are new, please do not forget to subscribe. Oh, and I will also put a link to Fanny's YouTube channel in the description. Check it out. Yeah, she's interviewed some really big names, so I think that it is worth the look.
That would be maybe the reason that Twitter is holding itself back from growing, because a lot of people have this don't want to talk about the uncomfortable things or taboos or political, or I want to keep myself away from this type of conversations, neutral, or don't sometimes not even give people their public opinions, like, my opinion is not important publicly, or I don't want to expose myself
to getting like the
publicly
trolls or whatever.
So a lot of people just like, I've heard people like for reasons like sometimes their job, sometimes they feel like I don't want put myself publicly, expose my political views or even myself personally.
Yeah.
So they choose to not even have Twitter, and maybe that's the reason Twitter is not that important. But it is important politically. Is apparently is the one of the only platforms that holds this type of conversations, these serious conversations and civil disagreements we want to lay down and maybe find some golden bridge in between these two sides and find a common goal and find a solution for the issues that we all experience together, But the narratives and the conversations are just so plastered in, like, you have to be like this, and if you're not like this, you're almost expelled out of that group, And so it is like one of the things I try to talk more is about the books talking about epistemology, sometimes groups that dedicate into street epistemology that actually want to go out and find these people that have those completely opposite opinions and try to find, why do you believe that? How you found out that? Or how did you end up with this conclusion that this is the reality? And I have such a different perception, because of course reality is only one. And that is also something you all need to lay down in the definitions when they talk about the street epistemology, because some people would even disagree when I say, like, we only have one reality.
Okay.
We only have different perceptions of it.
Okay, I was gonna say I kind of disagree, but then you said the little caveat that I would be like, well, there's like, we all have different perceptions of it. And that's the frame, like we have our own framings.
And we should all also step forward on like, oh, we understand that, we agree with that. So can we all agree that me perceiving it different, or a lot of people perceiving in a way, doesn't make reality change into what they believe?
It's okay. See, this is interesting because I do know what you're saying, but I have had it, and Peterson, like Jordan Peterson, I remember him explaining this, and because from a psychological perspective of, if you look at, say, a trauma or something, but then you reframe it to, oh, but wait, how old were you? Okay, were you responsible then at this time? Were you, what was the you know, just looking at the things in a different way. It doesn't have to be a trauma. That's just sort of something that's like an obvious, like, if you can change the framing of that, then you kind of can change the past in a way. Like you can change how you feel about it. You can kind of live in victory over it, if that makes sense. So I think that, like, again, this is a little postmodern-y.
But one thing that it's interesting, because you brought up Jordan Peterson, and one thing that I think he kind of lost the idea of truth and reality in all his conversations was to pull too much on the postmodernists that are not the orthodox postmodernists, but the new type of postmodernists that want to lose that thing, what I told you, that is important, the definition of things. So now comes to like, oh, I can believe whatever I want to just make me comfortable. And what about the reality? That is the important, and that should be the only objective thing we can all agree. So yes, it's important in the psycho side
to be like, we have perceptions,
play with imagine,
right?
With perceptions and imagination, but that is very harmful when we talk about political and social issues, because then it comes to, oh, my perception is different of yours. So if I say there is a systematic racism, my reality is just different from yours. It's like, no, reality is only one. If you're perceiving data and statistics, and there is a lot of narratives trying to convince people otherwise of the reality, it is confusing. We are going through this moment where it's not more, oh, we believe the data or we believe science. There are pseudoscience and there are data that are being used to mislead people.
Okay, I'm gonna go over. Okay, also I started recording already. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I didn't even introduce you yet. Okay, so I need to introduce you. So this is Fanny, and I don't remember how to pronounce your last name.
Anzai.
Anzai? Okay.
Yeah.
So we are both mothers and YouTubers.
Yeah.
In this space, we're not YouTubing about, you know, cooking or mothering, or I know this is so stereotypical. I'm sorry. I love the trad life when it suits. Like, I just made some pies for Thanksgiving, you know? Like, I like that, but it's not what I want to YouTube about. It's not what I want to YouTube.
I actually wanted to YouTube about everything,
Okay.
Andrea. My YouTube channel started more like an experiment.
So you could do the trad life if
I
you
was
want.
being just a housewife, and I was like, I'm gonna just start like making videos and see whatever works. But from all the
just ends up
subjects, the
being this
interviews, that was
space.
something
Yeah.
natural, became much more important, have more
Yeah.
visibility and focus. I enjoy much more than
Right,
cooking.
of course, yeah.
For
'Cause
sure.
it's not like you're like, oh, I hate cooking. It's just like, oh, this is
Cooking and
like
cooking.
more important.
No, I make my Instagram videos usually or house hacks, hints
Oh, I
and
should
stuff,
see
you
it.
know, like
I
how
need
to
that.
clean. Because for
Yeah, yeah.
mothers, I think it's useful to like, how do you get your wall
Your
clean
wall.
when you have your kids? When you have your kids scrubbing your walls with, you know, those wax
Yeah.
crayons. That's really hard to take it off, okay? But I found it out. We made a big group, like a conversation about it, and I found out like the best way to do it, and then I made a video
well,
about
I
it.
need to find your
So
Instagram so I can get your hacks,
various.
because I need those. But back to this, because I did want to frame something with regards to, the thing is, and it could just be semantics of language, and I think we more or less agree, but you could say that those on the right, the Trump supporters, again, this is in the United States. We're both in Canada, so like we're just looking in. We're just looking in, right? But those
everybody talks about
as if it's
United
theirs,
States
yeah.
anyway.
So like those who are the Trump supporters have a different view of what they are in America versus those on the left on the Democratic space. They have a different view of what America is too. You could say a statement like here. There was a Nietzsche quote that I quoted. They muddy the waters to make it seem deep. And that went viral for me. It was like over 1,000 likes or something like that, like overnight. And I was like, for me, I know that's not really viral, but like for me, I'm like, oh wow, that's like, this is a popular tweet. But you could say they is whoever you say they is. You know what I mean? If you're a Trump guy, or if you were like I don't know if they're necessarily like Biden is the right person, but like whoever you are, you could see it from either way.
Because I think what is they, I would say your they, in my perception, is everybody. They is everybody, because the Trump supporters are holding biases narrative that only support and
they is
defend their side. The same thing with the Democrats. And it is difficult for people like me, for example. I'm a centrist libertarian, that I consider that I'm not part of any of those groups. I see a lot of the narrative. I try to go more to independent media. I see what the mainstream media is displaying for people, and I think it is very biased depending on which channel you watch. So you can be Trump supporter or a Democrat and choose which channel is gonna give you what makes you feel more comfortable, kind of based on in reality.
Yeah.
But when I stand in a point of pointing like, look, I don't think this is totally true or this is totally true from either side, we get a lot of hate from both.
Right.
So it's
but
really
not very many people sit there though, Fanny. Like that's the thing. Like we're all biased. Like we're not going to pretend like we're above it. But the people who want to see the nuance, they're in a minority because people want it to be simple. It's like my party is at least so-and-so has our interests at heart on either side. And they're not looking to see the drawbacks and the pluses and minuses on either, it's just people want it to be simple when it's not. And but you can't get away from it. That's my question.
Talking about
sorry. I'm just like getting a little carried away. So you can't get away from humans wanting their taglines or their simple campaign slogans or whatever to be simple and digestible and like, yeah, that's it. That one little line, that's the truth, like, and I'm going to take that and that's just I was just talking to someone the other day about veganism, and I guess one of their taglines is like, meat is murder. So it's very, it's so simple, but they're like, yes, that's it. But it's just simple, and you don't have to think about it much. It's just the way it is. Do you know what I mean?
I would give a like, and I don't care, like it's more like, yeah, you're right, because we have not, we don't make meat in lab. We have to raise the meat and kill it.
Well, and that's just the example. We don't have to talk about
I guess,
the veganism.
Sure, by definition, it's right. But now, maybe by definition is wrong, because it would be just like, no, we're not just murdering, the murder word. I don't know, about the English definition, never read the dictionary, but I would expect that the murder has something on you kill and then
you plan,
when you kill someone,
I hate you, and you're like,
you don't even kill. You don't kill for eating. You waste the meat.
Yes, okay. This is why
for me,
there's more.
Hunt.
There's more to it.
Hunt. If you just hunt and you actually kill the animal and you leave it there
Rot, then that's murder
to
almost.
rot
Yeah.
in nature, it would be such a waste that I would say, like, yeah, we should stop doing that. We should not do something like that. But if you hunt and then you use the skin and then you use the, everything, all the sorts you can take from the animal, you can fine with that. I don't see anything wrong.
You're being nuanced about it, though. Like, that's the thing. People are like, no, just look at the slogan. Don't think. Like that's kind of how it feels. And that's the thing is, I don't know how Twitter, you're saying it's so small because people don't want to come on here because they're scared because of the partisanship. But how will it ever get better? That's what I'm wondering. What do you think? Do you think it's possible to make it better?
I think we all acknowledging our biases is a first step to work on that, because one of the most difficult things, I think, is to put in practice the things we say we do.
Yeah.
Like I have experienced recently, and I was not planning on bringing this out publicly, but I have recently, just during this crazy moment of US elections, I have kicked myself out of a group. I would put the responsibility on me for maybe posting something that they felt so uncomfortable that they kicked me out. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And it was interesting because I actually point out just before that's okay. We're supposed to be a street epistemology group where we have a lot of people that hold different opinions. And I was actually putting that point after someone came. I think it was Monday, just the day after the elections, and they came and someone came after a bunch of celebrations that Biden won in the group, and nobody mentioned or disagree or made any objection to it. Someone came to celebrate in the end of the day, like how good this group was for not having any Trump supporters. And I'm not a Trump supporter, but I had to point out that was weird to see that a street epistemology group would have such a homogeneous group, so much of a safe space of echo chamber that was very not productive for conversations, and for epistemology, for exploring beliefs, if you really want to find different opinions. So why would you, that if that was the movement we wanted to take, and maybe we would want to even to maybe change the name of the group from epistemology to, I don't know, ideology.
What is ideology? Ideologically possessed.
Everybody believes, and it's very homogeneous. No, I don't know. Could be communistic group. It fits well too. But then was interesting because I brought two videos from people that are more right-leaning. Okay, but actually were two videos where I think was Andrew Clavin and the other one, I don't know if it was Nuance. No, sorry, it was Matt Christensen. That he is right-wing, but he's very reasonable. He speaks with a lot of, in a secular way, I say in general, because he puts his personal opinion aside most of the time when talking about public area and public measurements. And I think he even tends to be much more libertarian than he might believe he is. Anyways, they were both actually not pointing out about how the election could be stolen, but putting this point of how we should maybe give more trust to the election's integrity, in the sense of it's important to believe the elections, and that when we go to recounting, the numbers are very small or not big enough to make a change in this case. And it was very reasonable. And so I actually was putting on, were long videos, but that exercise your thoughts, like to actually do the epistemology, you need to consider the other side point. That's the most important thing. How can you be so sure if you only know one side
Like
of the
straw
coin?
man versus like steel manning something. Yeah.
Even for yourself, how could you even say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna choose in between left and right, but I only looked
Right.
at one
Yeah.
side and not
Yeah.
at the other? So you would be doing like a misjudgment, I believe, or a faulty judgment. And it was interesting to see, like, I was just like, you were canceled. I say canceled because that is my
Well,
idea of cancel. But
why
no,
did they kick
there
you
are,
out
now the
though?
cancel culture is also something that the definition has been very fluid and is in everybody's mouth. I saw
Yeah.
videos somewhere is talking about it, and I have many objections of his opinion about cancel culture because I have interviewed earlier in my channel a friend, atheist from, I believe, from the street epistemology group. He's still there, or I don't even know because I was very not active in the street epistemology group recently. And my point was more like, hey, maybe it's not that the group doesn't have Trump supporters. Maybe the Trump supporters are afraid of coming out of the closet, just in the same
Yeah.
way atheists, that was the main subject of the group, are afraid of coming out of closets in very religious
Right.
communities because they're cast aside. There are a lot of judgment. There's a lot of bigotry. There's a lot of, and it is going on in the United States. So I would not think it was weird that there are Trump supporters in the group that just don't say they are, and was not my position. It's not that I am a Trump supporter, but I guess in their opinion, I am a Trump supporter just for considering that Trump is not that
But why
bad
did you get
and
kicked
that,
out though? Because you put those videos up.
yeah, it was like just like there was this conversation that I just came, made my
They didn't
positions,
like the
put
way
my
it
points,
culminated.
shared few
Yeah.
videos. Nobody comment or anything. I saw some people like checked it out, but nobody, it was like so fast that I'm sure nobody had time to chance to even open the video and check it. So it was
Oh.
more like a decision like, no, she's bringing something that's uncomfortable to some people.
But
Let's
wait a
just,
second. I thought that this
I
group
got
literally
deleted
was
from the
okay
group.
with talking about other sides of things.
Yeah, this is just one group on Facebook. I'm not, that's one of the things that's like, it's one of street epistemology groups, not the Street Epistemology International. I'm still part of
Yeah.
the Discord, have contact with a lot of people. It was one very specific group. And that, I think, answers finally your question about what we need to do, because over there I was pointing out that we are always blaming and crying out that the big corporations are controlling the internet and making those echo chambers and those safe spaces and segregating people according to their beliefs. And that is the evil part of the to not have the to have the impossible conversations, to have this common ground and make the left and right have the conversations. We always blaming that the internet as a impersonal agent is separating us, when in fact our people or individuals, the mods of groups in different platforms, deleting people when they disagree with them. And that was my point on saying like, this other person celebrating that, oh my gosh, the group doesn't have any Trump supporters. It's like, that is not one person celebrate that the internet saved us from this evil Trump supporters. Is whoever stands in the middle or even in the Trump support, like it not even need to be a Trump supporter, but maybe disagree that maybe Trump supporters are not evil. Maybe Trump is not evil. Maybe Trump is not that bad. They are going to be deleted, canceled, and put aside, or try to don't talk to these people. Maybe they're going to just taint your thoughts with whatever their narrative, and it's like, no, you should give a chance. That is the epistemology that we should be exploring, like, how do you believe this, and let's sit and talk. And I think that was a lot of uncomfortable conversation talk in that moment.
Okay, so
to even like point fingers to say like, no, we know there are individuals cleaning up the environment, and that is what we need to be
the
aware.
human nature of
It's
it
like,
almost.
yeah, we all
Yeah.
do this. Can we stop ourselves and instead of like close the door in front of the person that wants to tell you something
From their side.
different? Okay, maybe that was a bad analogy because I was thinking about all the religious people that knock people's doors in South America.
Oh, that happens here
I'm
too.
usually like, no, I don't have.
Oh my gosh, you know what though? You know what? I actually said I don't get the knocks that often, but I've said yes before to be like, okay, yeah, well, we can talk.
No, I
It's
actually
fun.
changed my position after I became
Yeah.
an atheist. I actually talk to
Yeah.
everybody. Mormons on the streets in Brazil have stopped and talked to them, and I don't know because I have passed through so many beliefs, me believing in some different and weird things, that it's not that I'm shielded from getting into belief, but their arguments I know, and they all have the same, and that's why I don't think they are going to convince
No, you
me
can't
into
convince
any of
anyone
them
into a
anymore.
faith.
It's good to give them the chance to hear my side and start, sometimes guessing on some things that don't make sense inside their own
Well, the
beliefs.
thing that, and that's totally like that's one thing that I think is important for them to maybe hear, even if they don't show it, they might question. But another thing that I used to enjoy talking with them, to argue with them, because I think when I was on your show, I mentioned how I do have a faith, like I'm a Christian, but I don't have the same as the Jehovah's Witness or the Mormons. So I'm like, no, we're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love it when I was younger, being like, well, I know all your little culty in group things, whatever. I'd be like, I'll reveal all the things, like all your other worlds that you'll rule when you die, and like on your multiple wives and on your planets that you'll populate, blah blah blah. Like I used to love that when I was young, but I actually like I kind of as I got older, I was like, okay, I think I don't like arguing anymore. I don't like arguing actually in general anymore, because I just have changed a little bit. Like I think that people who can absolutely like go for it, but for me, I'm like, I think I just want to go out. I met them the next day. I was like, can you guys come back tomorrow? I have my kid here, but my husband will be home tomorrow. And I met them at like the local Tim Hortons, and I was just like, hey, can you give me the spiel? And then I was like, how are you liking it here? Is it good? Like, I know you're not from here. Like, oh, you're from where? Oh, cool. Do you miss home? Like, I'm just like, okay. And then there was a minute, like I remember seeing it, like the mask, like the religious mask, it slipped and they were like, I remember it was something about like, oh, like one of them was annoyed about something, or it's like, oh yeah, I know, my goodness. And then they're like, oh, I mean, it's like you could see, and I'm just like, oh, there you were a real person for a second, because then you go out and you're all like, oh, I've got to have my battle armor on, because like when they're missionaries, but talking to them, and I don't want to be like, I lull them into a false sense of security. Like, that's not necessarily my aim. Like, I bet it's kind of, I'm like, I bet it's hard being on all the time, being like, I got to spread the name of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and whatever. I bet that's hard. So I just was like, I just am like, because I know how many masks do I have, so I'm not even like, they are the only ones with masks, but it was just kind of cool. I remember seeing it slip.
I think it's interesting because like I don't know, some people I don't know if they do have like a different personality to play the evangelization.
I think that they do.
I think I actually think like mainly these people, like young people that go on the streets, like the Mormons in Brazil, walking on the street, trying to go to this house and get more, more people in their church. They are so passionate. They truly believe that, like, deeply like emotional and involved on those
okay, I guess I don't,
of
it's
going
not that it's
out
not
and getting
them.
more
Okay,
people.
it's not that it's not them. It's just Because I know I can sometimes watch myself switch from being annoyed or upset or emotional about something, switch over to mother mode. Okay, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, I can't let this be upsetting. I've got to like switch it. But they're both me.
But I think that is an interesting thing because someone once, one of my friends from high school, um, in the middle of one of those arguments online, he said, "Wow, Fanny, you did not change anything. You became a mom and you did not change." And I was like, "Why would you be expecting me to change anything? Like, oh, I thought you would become more calm and softer and like not be so fighty and like so like the way that I was like young, that I would be different now that when I became a mom." And I thought it was interesting because I was like, no, I don't think so. When I stopped to think about that, I was like, I don't know why that would change. It would add me stuff for sure. Probably the experience will bring me some different perspectives in life, but I don't think people change, and every day more I believe that that's a belief that people don't change.
I waffle on that because I totally have said, oh, people don't change. Like I've said that at times, and then I like kind of change myself, and then I'm like, well, I changed.
No, I change opinions, convictions, but I don't think people
But
essentially
personality
change.
wise, I think I don't. But in this, I don't know, like the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law, I've changed it. I don't know, being a little bit more like, I definitely am a lot less black and white. I'm way more gray in regards to just, I understand there are lots of nuances. Rarely is anything black and white. And I didn't used to be that way. I used to be very black and white. But okay, I digress. I actually am like, Andrea, get a hold of yourself. Start asking Fanny some more questions you want to get to. So here's the thing. I did want to hear, because you brought it up, if you don't mind talking about it, your journey from where you started in your, I guess you had a faith or a religion or like whatever that was, and then you moved into atheism, and like how that impacted your, like, you were talking about people having not safe spaces coming out as atheists. So I was wondering if you wanted to talk about your personal experience with that.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking. Well, it's a long journey because I think we all, or it's something I mentioned sometimes, is we all are born atheists. We don't born with any beliefs. We don't essentially come to believe something by God. It's always taught to us. And a very good example is to see that it depends very much where you are born. You're going to be believing in different gods that is locally, regionally taught,
Well,
so
it started somewhere. Someone started off
Brazil,
with that.
in Brazil, around my area, I would be a Catholic because in Brazil it's like 86% are Christians, not specific Catholics, but Christians. And my parents, my mom was a Catholic, raised like very Catholic, like to have to go to church, and she hated. So she wanted to be more liberal on raising her children. So she told us like, here's the church. You guys can go if you want. If you don't want, okay, that's fine too. And if you guys want, I'll take you guys to the masses on weekends. And we tried. And right in the beginning, I said, this is super boring. I don't like this waking up early on Sunday morning, having to get pretty as going to a party, and it's a super boring party that is just up, down, kneeling. It's tiring. And you guys give money for nothing. I did not get any candy out of the party. So no,
I mean, at least
change.
for Halloween, you get.
No, and we used to go to, my parents were part of the Lions Club, and we used to go to conventions, parties, have like a social nightlife. So I was like, I'm much more to pizza night, Friday night, than this Sunday morning boring meeting where everybody's just trying to look nice and really looking at each other's look from up down. So I thought it was like a very formal, boring meeting. did not want to be part of that. And as soon as they told me and explained, like, no, we're going there for a purpose. That is God that made everything. We're going there. So when they came with this story of God made everything, I was like, that makes no sense.
How old were you?
It was my first, I was 6, I think.
You were 6?
And for me, to that point, I was like, God, Jesus, and Santa Claus were all the same old guy that in the end of the year would give you some gifts. And of course, I knew they never exist because we're my parents doing it. They never really fooled us with bunny, Easter bunny, or anything like that. They were like, oh, those are myths. So they taught us the myth. We knew as legends, stories, old stories. And we celebrate all the holidays, be part of it, even go to church because we had meetings and had marriages, weddings, and baptism and stuff. We were all baptized in church because just following
tradition.
My mom would say, like, we are non-practicing Catholics.
But wait, why are you non-practicing if you go to church?
We would go, but she would say, like, we can't consider that we are the practicing ones. We don't give money to church. We don't go every Wednesday and Sundays. That would be the days you're supposed to go. We don't do but we don't even read the Bible, but it's fine. We kind of follow the rules and be part of the community. And she told me, like, if you want to get married in the church, you have to finish those sacraments. And I was like, okay, I'll very hard try that. And that was the point when I actually, when I was 10, I think, I tried to go to the church school. But when they came with the story, I said, so how God made everything was the thing. Like, there were 7 days. They did not really open the Bible and explain very well, but they wanted me to know at least a bit. So they came with the story. Everything, there was nothing. Then God snapped his finger and created everything. And I was like, but that makes no sense. Because where is this super powerful, complex being that had to create everything was or came from? And nobody had.
He always was.
Answer.
Yeah.
And I was like, so you guys telling me that there was a supernatural being, super powerful, sitting in the middle of nothing, floating in the black nothingness, and then it got bored, and then makes no sense. No.
Well, I wouldn't say got bored, but go on.
So, like, it would not make sense epistemologically speaking that we need a super complex being because everything is so complex. But this super complex being did not need to be made, or we don't have explanation for it where it came from. So I was like, I did not go so complicated like that when I was 6, but it did not make sense already for me. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna buy this thing, but if you guys like, I'll try to go to the school.
Yeah.
And see.
Is it the catechism? Like, so catechism class? Is that what? Yeah.
Yes, catechism. Yeah. I went, the first class was already terrible. I raised my hand and I was like, I don't understand this thing on the Trinity. Makes no sense. I know a bit of physics. This thing on 3 bodies coming apart and then coming into the same, but like, 2 bodies cannot take the same place. So can you guys give me just a little bit of like insight of how this would work? Well, maybe you were
a little young for like this, like, well, sexual union. That's kind of 2 bodies.
And they were like, you have to just believe. Yeah. You can't ask for understanding. You have to believe. And I went back home and I had a conversation with my mom, like, I can't go to the class where they will not explain me things and they just want me to learn or believe.
You should be able to question.
Yeah. That's not how, And then my mom found a solution to take me out of that and put in in a private church school. That was just like a friend of mine, grandma, would more let us play, then give us class, and then give us the certificate that we did all the religious class. And so we didn't really go through studying all the religious class as they would do in the school. It was fun. I got my certificate. I was fine. And I went back. No, and I would actually go to the young group in church meetings. See everybody sitting, talk about their lives, problems. It was just like a social meeting. I wanted to be part of that. And after that, we would do roller skate.
Oh,
So I was
fun.
like, I can't miss it.
Of course not.
That is like this social. I was 12. I really wanted it. And then we did that for like 2 years. I actually got my first boyfriend in after one of those meetings in church when I was 14, 15, I think. And that was this social thing before we were allowed to party. So yes, I wanted to be part of it, the party. And for this sense of like believing this thing, I was like, I'm really trying to believe this. Not gonna go through the writings because it makes no sense.
But why did you want to believe it? Because of just fitting in the community?
Yes, yes, because it's like, wow, if everybody's crying in church, there are people crying next to me on church.
They're like, there must be something.
The Holy Spirit. Well, I'm not broken, I don't seem to be like, can I feel that? So, of course, in those meetings, singing all together, seeing people crying, I would feel things. We feel empathy because that is human. And I was like, okay, this is the Holy Spirit. And I believe that. But of course, to be a believer and rationalize, it would not make sense. So as soon as I was like, I'm a bad believer for not have read the Bible when the Bible is such a beautiful moral book, I have to read it. I started reading and I was like, I can't believe this. I have to make my own church. Then I started talking about how I would be a spiritualist out without religion. And then I entered this for the next years of my life. I went through high school, kind of standing on that point and trying to read more about other things. And then I became a spiritist.
What's a spiritist?
Read, like to believe ghosts and actually go to the meetings.
Oh, like seances and stuff?
Yeah. Like mediunity and reading books. The very strong one is Allan Kardec, was the one that I used to read tons of books of it. So because imagine when you start like, okay, it's not about God because they are not a religion. They say they are more like a doctrine of they need to lay down how ghosts work.
Like the supernatural?
So who has souls? Yeah, how you have a soul or who has a soul? You have a soul? Do dogs have souls? Do plants have souls? Rocks? What is the line where souls end? And there is a God? How does it work? Is God that makes souls? The souls are part of God or he makes them, and where do they come from or go to when you die?
Is that what this figures out?
So yeah, they talk about all this, and so they have different doctrines and different writers that have tons of books you can read and pick and choose whatever you want to believe. Pretty much. So I went through like reading and going to those meetings. They bless each other. They bless water. We do a bunch of. It is pretty much of a church. They just don't like the idea of saying that is a religion because a lot of people is still essentially Christians. They believe God, and some people that in their speeches will definitely be talking about Jesus, God, and just like some people will have their own beliefs, like religion, and then believe in the spirit.
So it's kind of compatible for different,
Yeah, it is kind of let's say that would be a good religion for a step out of religion, because at that point for me, when I was 17, 18, reading those books and picking and choosing, was when I faced that all religions are picking and choosing. Nobody has fucking evidence of anything more than their personal experience and a holy book. And they match with whatever makes them more comfortable. And I was like, I don't want to play this game forever.
So wait,
how many religions I'm going to go through my life? When reading those books, I was seeing that I was just picking another religion, that I just wanted to believe, strongly believe something was real, when there is much more explanations chemically and biologically speaking for the feelings we feel. And I was like, okay, I don't want to play the game of picking and choosing and having a
Is
religion,
this when you
or
were
I
in
will
the
have to believe in
spiritualist thing?
everything. I'm not
Oh, no, 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 no,
spiritualist.
no. I know. Going
Yeah,
back to the story of where you're at,
yeah,
you were
there,
in the
that point,
spiritualist
yeah.
space, and then you're like, I want something tangible I can believe in for real. And then you got out of that?
Yeah, I was through that path on like reading and trying to find, and it's like I think I faced myself in this mirror, a corner with a mirror, that I saw myself like, look, I'm just trying to believe something because I really want to be that to be true.
Why
I
did
really
you want
want
to
to.
believe something so badly?
I think it was the fallacy of popularity. I was convinced that, well, if everybody believes something, I have to believe too,
Okay.
and might have something that I just did not perceive,
Okay.
or that I perceived and I looked over. Instead, I wanted to make like it was my fallacy of like, oh, if everybody, but that was not true. I was wrong when I believed that.
Okay.
It was just that I had not faced the atheists that have accepted themselves. And I believe was that, in fact, I was an atheist all the time, and I had to digest that. So when I actually met my husband, and after years of him watching things and going through himself, I believe accepting himself as an atheist, we started talking more about it, and I was like, I totally have set myself as an atheist probably a long time ago, but I don't see any need of coming out of the closet at that point. And that was 10 years ago or more. And when I decided to come out, it was really hard. Because it was like the fear I had much more exacerbated in reality of the response of the people around. So it's like I was afraid of people would think it was weird and that I would have arguments with people, but I wanted to keep myself more on like, can I come out of the closet without being like this new atheist or new religious person that wants to convince everybody what they just found out? And I really came out in that sense. I would be more active online with unknown people than with people that I know, in the sense that I want them to respect me and vice versa. But there was a movement of revolution on the other side. That's like, you cannot become atheist. And I was like, no, I was already an atheist for a very long time. Now I'm accepting myself as one. And I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise, and to change your view, but please respect my change. And that was difficult when I have a super evangelical brother that is probably a pastor to be one day. And the conversations in general, when it comes to like, why don't you believe? And I was like, it's not that I don't believe on your God. I don't believe in any of the other gods. And the difference when people come with hell threats or anything is like, I'm just going to one hell more than you, because you're going to all the other hells. You have the gods you don't believe.
In all those different realities, I guess. That's one way to say it. I've heard the you only need to believe in one less god than me for people who are monotheists, but I've never heard about well, you're going to all the other hells in the other religion. I've never heard that one. That's a new one.
Yeah. I'm just going to one more. Yeah.
That's a different framing. That's like a self-deprecating. I like that, where it's like, well, I'll just go to one more. So what was the reaction of your family? Like you said it wasn't as bad as you thought.
I think my mom had a better reaction than when I became an spiritist.
Oh, okay.
When I came as like, I'm going to the spiritist church and reading those books about ghosts, that my mom was crying. She was desperate that I was involving myself with some dark black magic, something like
Yeah,
that.
right. Okay, so she was worried about that.
So when I came as an atheist, she actually said, the natural sentence you hear in Brazil is, you cannot believe in nothing. You have to believe
Right.
something. You can believe Satan, but don't say you don't even believe him, because that is like, oh my gosh, you have nobody to put moral in your heart.
Right.
And it's like, but God was never the one that put moral in my heart, or to give me my values or my morals. Because yes, we do have a Bible. Yeah, we kind of use and say that
Is that a
was
real
where we
Bible?
got our moral. It
You
is
have
a
it
real
right
Bible,
there.
a bilingual one, and I have a lot of fun reading on one of my channels that we talk about all the
Oh,
inconsistencies
you have a
in the
lot of fun with
Bible.
the
We're having lots of fun
inconsistencies.
in the Genesis
Okay.
too.
Like, oh, we have a lot of fun. Not talking about the
Yeah,
inconsistencies.
no, it is amazing. We keep trying to bring like reality to these people. Say like, look, they actually made the sun on the fourth day, and they managed to count days before they made the sun. But it's okay. That's fine.
Okay.
There was light before sun. It's fine. Nothing makes sense, but it's fine.
Right.
Like, don't try hard.
Well, that's
But no, I
that's
just
the
make more.
funny thing about modern Christians is they never meant it to be literal. And at least in that passage in Genesis, the people who wrote that, they weren't, whatever. I'm getting into my own.
No, I always thought, when I was still a believer, I was like, look, this is just metaphor.
It is.
So, and that
It's
was
literally
when I was
Hebrew
like,
poetry.
that is actually the first step of being an atheist. We say that there is a video really fun online that talks about the steps of becoming an atheist, and they say that one of the first things is stop using the Bible literally. So when you start being wishy-washy about the Bible, saying like, oh, this is just metaphor, and this actually it's literal, and this is just another story, this is just an anecdote, that actually is already like the steps of like not just being I would say today as an atheist is being apologetic, but some people defend that as being already a first step to being an atheist, to not interpret the Bible as the writing of God, and that everything is written there is truth.
Well, it depends. Okay, I'm
So
gonna do a
like,
Peterson. It depends on what you mean by truth, because I just, anthropologically speaking, you would never read ancient texts from a modern perspective ever, because they didn't know what we know. They had their own context. So anyway, that's just
no,
me.
for me, the Bible explaining the creation of things, we're just a bunch of people in the past trying to figure out how the
This
things
is
were
their
created.
worldview.
And from anybody imagination, it would come out something like that. Oh yeah, the blue from the sky and the blue from the water is the same, let's just put it apart. And then,
Well,
like, if you read, it is a good story for
well,
kids
it's
trying to
just like,
explain things we don't know how to explain at that point, because science explained how the things were
well, science wasn't. They didn't
created.
understand what, like,
Now,
science. The science we talk
yeah,
about
but that's
isn't
why I say
even
like
in there.
no, and that's why I say like this is man-made. People trying to figure out how the things were created and put here, and then some people say, "Oh no, this is the
But the
word of
main,
God."
but actually, the thing that is the main thing is,
like,
it's
so it's
not
a
even
lot
the
of
how, it's the who. Like, that's the point of this Genesis story, is who made it. Like, that's why, for the oral tradition that came down and was eventually written down, was like for the Hebrew peoples to know who their God was. Like, that's what, anthropologically speaking, I'm trying to, I'm not even trying to be like, because I'm a Christian, I'm going to defend it. I'm just saying,
yeah, no,
from those ancient stories, they didn't even really, they were like, how is this made? I think it was more, who made it? That's the significance to them. Kind of like what you were saying about that, you got to have a who, Like he was like, if your who is Satan, that's fine, because you know you were saying you're Brazilian people. It's the who that seems to be the significant thing. Is like, so anyways.
Oh no, there are other no because like for me it's like one Bible explaining how the things were created. You can take that from other religions, and some religions we're gonna just say like some in Buddhist sects there's like no, we don't even want to pretend that we know how the things were created. That is for the
Oh, that's
science.
so different. The
This religion is
Buddhism is
specific.
so different
This
from
religion is
us.
different. They
Yeah.
want to say, no, we know the truth, and that is the truth. That's how it was created. God told us, and that's why we put in this
So
book.
so
So it's like for me to like, oh yeah, no, I accept this is the truth of creation, or no, I know there is science to explain that, and that's why the books, just traditions. That's fine. There are a lot of books that pretend to know things.
So, but what? Okay, because so my question is, do you think that there's different ways of knowing something?
Definitely,
Okay.
yeah. No, but that doesn't mean that just saying in an old book is truth. And that is my point. It's like, because if I would believe this is a way that everything was created, I would have to not believe in the other people that pretend to know how it was created when there is science. And that is the difference on pseudoscience, on any other book, or scientific books that will have a method that if you apply, will always have the same result. Why don't we believe in any God? Because those gods, they don't produce the same results, even if you input the same
But
things. And
science
that
changes
is
all
this.
the time. I'm not saying like gravity, but even that actually over
No,
by.
science changes all the time, but you're talking about science as a general world and not speaking about like, yes, science and mathematics, they get accurate more as we use sometimes, because sometimes we people failed on finding the right methods. So maybe we're applying the wrong formula, but as soon as we find the right formula, anybody that comes and apply this formula will come with the same results. And that is the beauty of the scientific method.
Right. Okay. So
I would suggest watch some Feynman, that he's going to explain a lot of this. Like we put hypotheses, because what would be the scientific method? I have a bunch of hypotheses, and that is what the religious people do. Oh, if you do this is going to happen. And the hypothesis to be tested and not come with the same result should be enough to throw away that hypothesis. That's what we have done with why we don't scientifically believe in any religious or God is real, because they don't have an accurate, so much that every religious person loves to use this sentence that God works in mysterious ways, because it doesn't work every time.
Well, that is true, and that is a very modern reading. That's the thing. But I actually am going to go back because I've tangented. I tangented. But I want to know when your mom.
I was just Amy Coimber today.
Like what?
I just wrote conversation with Andrea, and then I did not write
dude,
anything.
I have the
I'm
same.
not prepared. It's all on you.
No. I didn't even write anything. So I'm like, I don't need to. I think it'll just go. So
just have conversation.
I knew it would.
Oh my gosh, your husband is going to be mad at us.
I know we are,
but
that's okay. He'll be okay. I do want to wrap up sort of like, I want to know a little bit more about you. You were saying that your mom was more relieved when you said you're not doing the spiritualist thing anymore.
Oh no, I think she just did not have such a bad reaction as when I said I was going to some ghost church.
Okay, because I thought that I remembered
believing ghosts and souls.
Okay, the black magic.
You know, because that for her was
That's
like,
evil.
oh, you're dealing with ghosts and souls, and you're gonna bring bad, spirits to the house, things like that. My mom is like from old school.
Right, so she was like, okay, so you can just get rid of the evil.
Superstitious.
So I thought
my brother had a bad reaction trying to evangelize me, because now as a super evangelic, recently at that moment turned evangelic, he was like, I still need to save you, and I understand.
He doesn't.
That's probably
sorry. He doesn't save anyone. The Holy Spirit saves. But anyway, sorry. But he's
No, but
going
that's
about it like that
my
then,
point.
right?
What every religious person that evangelize believes that they are doing
Yeah,
good to
yeah.
other people, and I understand, like as so much that I had to tell all my acquaintances and friends or close people to not feel sorry or bad to say go with God, Godspeed, or whatever from our colloquial use of, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I still use, because this is our normal language. And of course, I understand when people address God to me, they are wishing me the best. So I never get offended with those
Right.
things,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I had to go through like people sometimes stopping themselves like, go ahead, just say it. And they're like, oh, but you're an atheist. Like, look, you would say if you did not know, what does change? Nothing, because this is our way of speaking. So even recently I saw atheist experience people arguing that like, you guys are still using God in the conversation. That proves something. It's like, proves nothing. It proves that we all in the same time of the evolution, time, space, as human species. We came from like cave, we had the evolution. If you believe evolution, we came from other, or like not specific from the monkeys, because if you understand evolution, you would not say, oh my gosh, how can you believe evolution? They're monkeys and people. It's like, it's not that we turn one into the other. We have common
Yeah, yes, yeah.
ancestors,
I
you
learned.
know.
I
So
I
if
agree
you
with
believe
this.
in evolution and you cave from cave to have a society to revolutions, farming and industrial evolution and on and on, and we are right now in the point where we're talking about maybe having smaller governments, libertarianism, and people like, but this never happened, or talk about having atheism more common, but this never happened. Of course it never happened. We are on the top, on the front line of the time space for humans.
Okay.
We are the ones leading. And of course, nothing of those things we are proposing now, lots of those things never happen because we are doing it together, evolving together as humans, as society,
Okay.
So
We're
yeah, we
trying
need
it
these
out.
bigger governments or church and stuff to control people's mind. But we are more evolved now that we can understand more on individual rights and individual property, and that we don't like when people harm us or take things from us. And that's probably the best way to live, if we can all respect each other in that sense. Simple like that.
Well, one thing is, I wanted to know, did you ever feel like persecuted for being an atheist?
Yeah. You mean in
Yeah, well,
Brazil?
wherever.
More, yeah. Yeah, in Brazil I did. That's probably the reason why I decided that I wanted to quit there. It
You
was
wanted to
a
quit Brazil?
very, yeah, was very, because I'm a very intempestive and very impulsive person. So sometimes I want to do this, and I hate to plan for very
Mhm,
long projects. Life is too
mhm,
short. I don't think we should take too long, and I don't spend much time on doing many things. So I was like, I want to do this. I need to see I'm able, and then I probably in the next year or so I'll be doing
mhm,
something else.
mhm.
I get bored and then I do something. But in Brazil, when I came out of the closet as an atheist, I was working in emergency ambulance and had a lot of colleagues very religious. And at first time was just people trying to evangelize me or say that was wrong, or talk about how democratic the country was, and see the majority, the fallacy of the
Right.
popularity. Look at how many more people believe than to not believe. And I'm there looking at these other better
Mm.
countries, less religious around the world, and try to point out to those places and like, maybe we could be like that. But if we can't, and I'm probably not going to be the one to save Brazil to make it like that, maybe I should just
Oh,
go
okay.
to this other
Right.
place. So in the end, it was that decision, because I did suffer more from at home, having discussions with my brother, trying to show me the truth, and 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 at work, people pointing out that I'm an atheist, that I have no morals, that how can I have no
Oh,
God at my
oh,
heart,
that's
that
hard.
this was totally immoral and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And sometimes had like there was a situation, I don't know if I mentioned to you before, but there was one time I kind of took a little kitten from the
Mm-hmm.
streets at one of these jobs, and then I kept
Mm-hmm.
it in the base. And then I fed, and people saw, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna put in a plastic bag and throw in the middle of the road,"
Why?
because that's how they treat animals on the streets. Brazilians like, or they are like loving people that want to save all the animals in the streets, and then they put food and water on outside of their house, or they hate the animals in the street and they want to harm or
Oh gosh.
disappear with
Okay.
them, and they usually do that. So this base specific that I used to work is on the road. It's just by one of the roundabouts close to a city, like 10 kilometers from the next city. And they just mentioned, like, "Oh, we're gonna put in a plastic bag and throw in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
the road." And I was like, "You don't even need to do this because this cat came just from the neighbors." And it's like, "Oh, it's just a baby, it's gonna stick around because you fed it,
Mm-hmm.
so you will stick around. We're gonna." And then when I mentioned, and then I got super mad, of course, to hear
Mm-hmm.
that. And I was like, "I can't believe that you guys that say you guys so moral, religious, and believe that God made everything would harm a creature made by God."
Right.
So I tried to like, guilt trip them with their God belief, really, because like it makes no sense that super religious people that keep talking about morals would even harm an
Mm.
animal, an indefense animal. For me, it's
Mm-hmm.
outraging. I get mad. I'm mad. I was super mad at that point. So when I said that, they said, "You take this cat and disappear from here without your God, and that you don't have God, but go away, and you take the cat with you, or we're gonna harm the cat."
Oh.
So I end up adopting the cat, and I have the cat today in Brazil still.
Oh.
She's
Do
amazing
you see, oh,
because I
where is
couldn't
she?
find
Is
a
she with
house.
your family in Brazil? Because
Yeah,
you're here, you're in
she's with
Canada
it.
now, but they still have her?
Yeah, I came to Canada.
Oh.
I still have one dog and two cats
Okay.
there.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
you're like, I gotta go back and visit every so often.
Yeah, I actually found a family for two of my dogs. The
Okay.
two small ones, the
Yeah.
Yorkshire, they were adopted by a couple friend of
Oh
mine,
good.
and they have really good life. They are babies
Okay. Oh babies.
of this couple. So yeah, the big one is a German Shepherd
Oh.
mixed with what is this? What is this? The other? He's just two shepherds mixed together, but he's a huge black, looks like a wolf.
Ah!
And two cats, one that I had that's already 11
Mhm.
years old, I got
Wow.
during university, and Madeline. Madeline is the cat that
You
I got,
saved.
that I saved from these evil
The
people.
evil people.
But what's
I think that's
interesting,
so horrible and sad that they treated you like that. I'm so.
yeah,
Can I
yeah.
apologize on behalf of faith believers?
You don't need, please don't do
No.
it. But yes, that was one of my worst, I think it was one of the worst from people that I don't
Mm.
know or that like I worked with,
Mhm.
of having some of stress, and they bring out my not religiosity, but they were mistreating me kind of slowly for
Mm.
very long since I came out of the closet about
Mhm.
that, trying to say that that was abnormal, that was not the right way to do it. And I was like, I'm not even gonna try to convince you guys
Yeah.
otherwise of what you believe, and I would like you
Just
to
respect
respect
it.
my position as
Mhm.
well, you know. But it is pretty hard, and I feared at that point what it could come for my dog.
Right.
And when I had her, was like a lot of questioning and thinking, and I was like, decided that no, I need to leave because I don't want her to go to school, say that she doesn't believe things, and then people
Mhm.
mistreat her or try to convince her different, evangelize her. Of course, I believe that she's gonna end up knowing a lot, much more about all religions and beliefs than other kids that are indoctrinated in some. And that is something that my mom, for example, was afraid when I said I'm going to
Mm.
leave. One of the reasons is my atheism and the way that people behave towards this, mainly because Bolsonaro came around and he came as a president saying that anybody that was not religious should leave Brazil. He was not going to rule for these
Oh,
people.
man.
Talked about putting very religious ministers in power.
Oh, my
And yeah, it was a
goodness.
big anti-atheist movement
Okay.
during that time. That also,
So
yeah,
do you like
culturally.
it here? How are you finding Canada? Is it what you hoped? No!
No, definitely not. No, here in BC, it's
I'm
like the
so surprised.
Bible
Oh,
Belt.
you're in the Bible Belt in BC. I didn't even know there was a Bible Belt in BC. It's pretty liberal, I
Pretty much.
thought.
Nothing uh, bad in general, I would say, but it's interesting that it doesn't feel like in this area there is such a community because they are so apart into religious groups that they don't congregate. So we don't see like a public community that we can be part, and all the groups are segregated by religion. So if you're not their religion,
If you don't go to
you don't
church, they're
become part of.
okay. That's the thing about churches. They really are like a space for people in the community to meet. But I've heard that in schools are where a lot of people make community if they're not religious necessarily. Like that's where you can, but people get affected now because of COVID if your kids aren't in school. A lot of them are. My kids are in school. Um
Yeah.
but
Yeah, my daughter, she goes
she's
daycare,
young,
but yeah,
right?
we were very segregated because of
Yeah.
COVID. And sometimes what I feel more is like everybody is into those religious communities that are so close that we have like sometimes we make new friends and it goes up to 2 meetings, 3 meetings. Sometimes when you bring up atheism or even political opinions, that is enough to not have
A
a third
lot,
person.
yeah.
And next,
A
keep
lot of
going.
people
Yeah.
don't like having
And
their
I think
ideas
that's,
challenged,
yeah,
though. So that's they're not like us.
yeah. No, and I actually have fun to like, can we sit and maybe even disagree? Like, let's sit to have
Well, let's go
some
back. That brings us back
snacks,
to the
let's drink a
situation with
beer,
you
and
and the
then
group, kicking yourself out. That brings us back to it's like people get in these categories, and it's sometimes religious, sometimes political. It's like they get religious about political things. you know right? So
people are getting very religious about the political things. In
yes,
fact, that is the disease of nowadays. And I even feel that maybe because people really want to follow
I
things,
100%
people
agree.
want to follow things so badly that they are going back to this thing on believing things or even
I
following
don't think
people
it's
just
back. I think
for
it's
the
always been there. That's
sake
the
of it.
thing. Like I think people see this is where we I think maybe diverge a bit because you're like no, progress means don't have to believe in blah blah blah. Let's look at the facts and whatever. But I think that that's a part is for sure because we would not be here as human beings without rationality. But I think rationality is new to mammals. And I think that
But
we always had something
but
deep
I
inside that makes us want to believe things. And I think it's
No, I think it is natural that we like to have little groups and that we make groups because
it's
when you
true.
see we go into kindergarten, daycare first time, we tend to still split that group that is small in
Totally.
smaller groups. We want to have like our best friends, our besties,
Yeah.
and so that is something
Yeah.
natural. But we also have evolved more over the intuition to just be human and animals to like, no, we understand that it's important to have disagreements and
Until
to
we get
pick out,
threatened
you know,
and then we go back to our
yeah,
little
at
we
least
need
like
our
go pick on
leaders
the
and we
other
need to believe in
side.
something.
Because like, don't you get curious that these other people that really disagree with you, maybe they know something
I think that you
really
have to think
that you just
above.
don't
That's
know.
like the next like the first step.
Like they know the secrets of
You're
they
speaking
know the
too
truth
centrist,
and you
like
don't know.
you're like you okay, because I get it what you're saying, but that I think is not the norm. I think people start off with if they feel threatened, I think they're like, no, I'm not gonna go to look at the other side. That's where the danger is. I have to stick. I have to hold my cards close to the chest. I have to stay in the in group. I can't. They just will,
Yeah.
and we see that with the election, and we see that with beliefs, and we're not.
I think I'm just curious.
I think that
you know,
that's
like
the
that
thing.
that thing, that mix of fear and excitement. It's
There's
like,
not enough
yes,
curious
you
people in the
know, it could
world.
be
I
dangerous, but
will
let's
agree.
go check
Yes.
out.
I'm glad that there's a fellow curious lady YouTuber in this space, because that curiosity is important, because that's where you can look at other horizons, even if you don't necessarily agree. You can just look at other people's perspectives and then learn something, even just in, I don't agree with this, but I learned this, you know? Yeah, I think, thanks for, I'm gonna like wrap up now, because I just realized that I'm like, oh, it's okay, we can go a little bit longer. Then it's like, oh no, it's been like 20 minutes past when I'm like, we'll just go a little bit longer.
No, we can
But
do
this
it.
was good.
I'm fine.
Thank you so much for coming, and for this, like, we dove right in. Like, yeah, we don't need to prep.
We should do it again. You know what? Just invite me. Just tell me whenever you have time, and we sit and we talk about whatever.
Okay, for sure.
Just bring a subject.
Awesome.
And if you want to do like a more the feminine, I think it would be great to go over beauty, sexuality, and all the stuff. Then I talk about my OnlyFans
Yeah, girl, we
experience.
didn't even talk about that. Okay, I'll talk. Okay, I'm gonna say goodbye, and then I'll just stop recording. Okay, bye.